Hello fellow simmers. In this tutorial I would like to explain the new feature I have implemented into Mission X. The idea behind this feature is to allow you to design a flight plan in LittleNavMap and then easily convert it to a Mission X file format so you can then add and enhance the base flight plan with mission related information. Currently, the functionality is limited, but it is good enough to create a base mission file. So let's jump into LittleNavMap and see how it can be of use to us. In this tutorial, we are not going to dive deep into the flight planning using LittleNavMap, but instead I would like to demonstrate how easy it is to create a short flight plan and then import it into Mission X. I'm using a flight plan that was shared by Angle of Attack. I'll add a link to his channel in the description below. So first of all, let's manually create a flight plan. We start with departure location, and then I will add few waypoints, and then at the end we will land in a Merrill field. So let's see how easy it in LittleNavMap. We just right click on the start location and I will set the airport as departure. If I remember correctly, they flew somewhere over here. We can see how it is being created. Now that we added all the waypoints, we have the flight plan, we have the departure and the arrival. Another way to create a flight plan from a given route is by using Skyvector. Copy and paste the flight route text into Skyvector. Press enter. In most cases, Skyvector will be able to parse the text correctly. Once you have the parsed flight plan, you can export it as a Garmin flight plan file. Once you have the Garmin flight plan file, you can import it into a LittleNavMap. We parse it and you can see the flight plan. And again, let's save. We will pick the save as LittleNavMap format and we will save our work. If we open the flight plan file, we should see that it is based on XML, and I highlighted in red the part of the departure. This is the departure waypoint, and in blue box these are the list of waypoints that basically builds the flight plan itself. We will use them to create our mission and our GPS route. Before we will be able to open the file in our Mission X plugin, we have to copy the file into the FMS plan folder in Xplane. So here is the file that we just created. I will copy it into the FMS. Now let's open Xplane. Once we open Mission X homepage, we can see the conversion flight plan button. Click it and you see the list of flight plan that are in the format of LittleNavMap. I suggest you to refresh if it's a new file. And I think this is the file that we have created. press the continue to step 2, and here you will see the main conversion page. The second window is the main conversion screen. It lists the flight plan waypoints, and it allows you to define which waypoints are mandatory, which ones are part of the flight plan as a GPS location, and which one to ignore. Basically, the simple interface allows you to define a quick and dirty mission file without adding anything of substance. If you want, you can click the Generate button and it will create a simple mission file. Most of it will be empty probably, or it will hold default generated messages by the plugin. If I will click here on the Generate, it will let me know that there is no mandatory flight leg. If there is no mandatory flight leg, then the mission will start and end immediately. So this is our destination, and we can click the Generate, and it will create a file in the random folder. Basically, we are creating a random mission. So if we want to run it, we need to load it from the load mission screen and then start the mission. Let's review some of the table columns. The index column holds a unique number for each waypoint. The index 0 is reserved to the departure tag that we have seen before. If there is no departure tag, then you won't see the index 0. In many cases, waypoints 0 and 1 are close to each other. So you can probably ignore the first one and then continue with the other waypoints. The leg column allows you to define which waypoint is mandatory. A mandatory waypoint is also a flight leg. Not all waypoints needs to be mandatory. Sometimes only the last waypoint is mandatory and the rest are just part of the GPS flight plan as part of the overall suggested route. So in this example, I've just marked the Merritt field as the last flight leg, and I was able to generate. The GD column means on ground. Default is none, which means plane should be in the physical area and we don't care whether the plane is on ground or airborne. The current default area of effect is a radius of 2000 meters if the plane is airborne, and if it is on ground, then 200 meters. This will change in the future, but in this implementation, these are the length of the radius. The distance column lists the distance from the previous waypoint to the current one. And in parentheses, the cumulative distance from the start of the flight plan. The settings button will be shown only for briefer or mandatory flight legs. Okay, so in this case, we have the departure, which is also translated as briefer or start location. And you will have the briefer button. Any mandatory flight leg will have a flight leg button settings. Last is the IEG column, or ignore. A waypoint that is ignored is also not part of the GPS flight plan or flight route. So if, for example, the briefer is the starting location, then we don't really need the Homer flight coordination. So we can just ignore it. It won't be part of the GPS flight plan. Again, you can decide if you want it or not. Now that we understand the basics of the converter screen, we can check the briefer and flight leg settings. The briefer pop-up window lets you enter basic information regarding the mission itself. In the mission info, you can enter who wrote this mission, estimate time, and weather settings. Other setting can be any custom scenery or other settings that you think that are important for the mission itself. In the briefer topic, you can enter the plain start heading and the mission description. The mission description is what you see in the load mission window. In the flight leg pop-up, Windows lets you fill in flight leg description. Remember, when you are writing the flight leg description, you basically describing the en route rules until and when you arrive at the waypoint. Other information that you can add auto messaging at the start of the flight leg and at the end of the flight leg itself. You can add few commands that you want to execute, again at the start of the flight leg and at the end of it. In some cases, you might want to define the elevation rules. In the elevation settings topic, you can define advanced elevation rules you expect the plane to be when arriving at the waypoint. Rules like ignore or on ground, rules like fly above a certain elevation or fly in a restricted elevation volume. For example, restrict to min and max elevation. You can define the minimal elevation above ground or below it, and of course you can define to ignore any elevation rules, meaning you just need to be in the proximity of the waypoint physical area. Now that we have the flight plan generated for us, we can load the mission. It will be a random mission. So here is the image of the random mission generator. We can see the information we have entered. Let's click the load mission file. Everything is fine. Let's click on the start. Okay, the plane is a little bit skewed because of the information we have entered. It wasn't a exact heading. So this is how it looks. It's very easy to fix that. Let's open again the flight leg and you can see flight 2. This is another information that we have entered. And when we check the flight plan, we can see the route that was defined in the conversion mission table.